Welcome back. Junkies on 106.7 The Fan. It's Cakes, EB, and JP. Coming up later this hour, it could be like Kentucky Baller. One and done. We're going to debut the tweet sheet.
Yes.
I can't wait.
Use hashtag tweet sheet if you want.
Right.
We're going to advance it.
Sure.
Oh, I'm dumping junk mail. That's out.
It's
That's
out.
drab, stupid idea. It's tweet sheet.
Yeah, you're not featuring emails, you're featuring tweets.
Right.
That's one brilliant tweeter pointed out.
Right.
What a groundbreaking
So
segment.
it's
I
hashtag
can't
tweet
wait.
sheet.
Right.
But right now, we'll talk some Final Four with Dave Revsine for the Big Ten Network. And I got another important question from Dave. You can chime in on this. What is your stance on ketchup on a hot dog?
Good question.
Well, first of all, I'm honored to be with the Junkies on such a historic day. It does sound like
Yeah, with the
We are,
tweet sheet
we are
debut.
happy to have you.
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah, you're gonna make some radio history.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'll be sure to stream it.
Yeah, we're like,
Right,
we're,
right.
we're like Vasco da Gama of radio.
Podcasts on play.it.
No, this is really going to be crazy. History will, I'm sure, paint a favorable picture of what happened.
Right.
Ketchup on a hot dog is
He's
popular
bullying.
in Chicago.
Yeah.
As you guys may know, I mean, you get scorned openly in Chicago if you put ketchup on a hot dog. So I'm against it.
Yeah,
We're
I mean,
very.
Well,
Yeah,
all right, in
we're-
Chicago, I'm sorry, I'm not cultured, and I would go to Wrigley Field
you're
every
a
summer.
Chicago guy,
I was
too,
a
EB.
kid. I was born there. So
Yeah.
what is the number one go-to then in Chicago?
Well, you have the mustard on it.
Right?
And then, in Chicago, you got this bright green pickle relish that's
Right.
really good. Or you just take a pickle strip, onions, tomatoes. The tomatoes provide what the ketchup would otherwise
Right.
provide. That's
Same
it.
thing.
Good point.
Very similar.
Sounds like Dave Revsine knows his hot
Do
dogs.
you guys do chili cheese dogs?
No, there are some who would, but, that wouldn't be the Chicago hot dog is the Vienna hot dog with a little bit of a crunchy skin with no ketchup on it, mustard, and then all those different things.
Sounds good
that
to
I
me.
described.
I'm in. I'm in, Dave. Speaking of being in, this was Maryland's first year in the Big Ten, and while of course they didn't advance in the tournament, they did surprise some
They
people.
won a game.
They did win a game, but they did surprise some people, and I think people thought that they would struggle, of course. But I think at the end of the day, they were one of the bright spots of the Big Ten.
Yeah, they were maybe among the best stories. And the truth of the matter is, I think next year they might end up being the preseason favorite. Assuming Jake Layman doesn't go pro, which certainly I hope he doesn't.
Where's he going to go pro?
Triple-
Like Israel? He's terrible. He's mediocre.
Well, he was real. There was some buzz about him in January and early
I know, it's
February,
crazy.
and then it fell off a little bit. But if you look at those draft lists, he's still fairly high up on them.
I know, they're
Hopefully-
insane.
Yeah.
It just irks
Hopefully
us
he
because
doesn't go.
Yeah, go ahead.
it irks us because
Oh.
two of us went to Maryland and we got to
Right.
watch. We get to watch the team on a regular basis. And you see Des Wells and you see Jake Layman, and Des Wells is the better player, and yet Des Wells doesn't show up on a top 100 list, and Jake Layman's pretty high up there.
Well, I think Des Wells is just kind of a tweener, for
Yeah.
the NBA. I think to me that's the issue with him. But man, with Diamond Stone coming in, Trimble coming back, if Jake comes back, I don't know. It always depends on kind of who goes pro, who doesn't. But I think they'll be among the favorites in the Big Ten next year, which would be pretty cool. Football held its own, so I think it was a rousing success.
Absolutely.
Dave, talk about the ramifications of Diamond Stone committing to the Terps. That's a guy who 5 years ago probably wouldn't have even considered Maryland. Maryland goes into the heart of Big Ten country and lands a top 10 recruit. That's a big move for Maryland.
Oh, I think it's enormous. He is, by all accounts, really something. I watched, there was one game, I think it was on ESPNU, that we had on in the green rooms probably a month or two ago while we were watching the other, kind of there doing our halftimes and pregames and all that. And, he was absolutely dominant. Now, it's always hard to know kind of, all right, what's the level of competition. But, he's a ready-to-go big man. So, those are hard to come by. And that was the thing that they were missing, I thought, this year was a dominant guy at the 5 spot, or honestly, even a good guy at the 5 spot. So he gives them that right away. I think it's huge for Maryland.
All right, let's get into the Final Four. Wisconsin's a team that nobody's surprised to be there. You cover the Big Ten. Michigan State, though, was a team that was kind of, middle class in the Big Ten. How surprised are you they got to the Final Four?
I am pretty shocked. I've been telling this story that on February the 10th, Jimmy Jackson and I did the Michigan State Northwestern game in Evanston. And on that day, we were floating around, and Jerry Palm, on his predictions, had Michigan State among the first 4 outs of the NCAA tournament. And so our open to the game was kind of, the way to lure people in was, will Michigan State make the tournament and keep its 17-year streak alive? And here they are less than 2 months later, and they're in the Final Four. So I'm very surprised. I mean, this was not a good team for the bulk of the year. But the genius of Tom Izzo is he just figures out a way at the most important time for the team to come together. He just knows the right buttons to push. He always has. I mean, think about this, guys. Michigan State, I mean, if you go through, first of all, you go through Rivals.com and you look historically at how highly these guys were recruited. There's one top 50 recruit on this whole team, all right, versus Kentucky's got 9 McDonald's All-Americans, Duke's got 8, and so on. And then if you go to the NBA draft boards and you say, okay, well, maybe the recruiting people made a mistake. I went to 2 of those. I went to the ESPN one chat board and then the NBA draft.net. Top 80 prospects, Kentucky 8, Duke 4, Wisconsin 3, Michigan State 0. 0. It's a pretty good job he's done.
All right, how much of a chance you give him against Duke? I guess you can't count them out.
Well, they're here. I mean, that's at a certain point. You just have to say, if you made it to this point, you've got a shot. I mean, I think Duke's the better team. I'll say this about both of the games involving the Big Ten teams. If they were best-of-7 series, they'd both lose them. But the beauty of it is they're not best-of-7 series. So if you have a good day and the other team, whether it's Duke or Kentucky, doesn't, you've got a shot. But, obviously Duke is the prohibitive favorite, I think, in that game.
Talking to Dave Revsine from the Big Ten Network. Let's move over to Kentucky. Got a little scare there against Notre Dame.
More than a little.
Lost.
Yeah.
Some would say that, all right, they got by this, now they're going to roll. Others might say that Notre Dame maybe exposed them a little bit defensively with the side pick and roll. What are your thoughts?
I think they did to a certain extent. I mean, yeah, they really, what was interesting was the conventional wisdom going into that game was that Notre Dame was just going to have to bomb away from three-point land, and that was the way to beat Kentucky. And as it turns out, they were able to get to the hoop against them and really didn't hit a ton of threes. Wisconsin is really good offensively. I mean, they are. I mean, it's a great matchup. It's the most efficient offense in the country against the most efficient defense. So you've got strength against strength. If Wisconsin plays like they did, well, certainly if they play like they did in the second half against Arizona, there's no one in the country who can beat them. If they play even close to that, I think they've got a great shot at it. Again, I mean, best-of-7 series, I'm going with Kentucky, but this is one of those teams, as we went through the list all year and had the conversation of who could beat Kentucky. Wisconsin was on a very short list, so they're going to have to play really well, but I think it's within the realm of possibility, and I would give them a better shot than I would Michigan State at beating Duke.
Now, most people all across the country, they don't get to see a team like Wisconsin that often. They may have heard about Kaminsky, but they probably weren't as familiar with Sam Decker. Why has he blown up so much in the tournament versus the regular season where you might say his numbers were a little underwhelming?
Yeah, Sam Decker has always had this kind of tantalizing talent. Bo Ryan told me a story that Sam Decker, who's from Sheboygan, Wisconsin, that hotbed of hoops talent, came down for a camp in Madison after his sophomore year of high school. And Bo said he watched one day at camp, went up to Sam Decker afterward and said, "I've been waiting for you my entire life." So, I mean, this is a kid who you watch him and you're kind of like, whoa. Sometimes he doesn't seem all that engaged. I mean, that's the weird thing about him. He certainly on defense wasn't engaged for his freshman year, and he sat next to Bo a vast amount of the time because of that. Last 2 years, he's picked up a little bit on the defensive end. I mean, look, he was out of his mind in that game against Arizona, but he's been the best player in this tournament for Wisconsin, no doubt. And is it an aberration? I don't think it is. I mean, he has that kind of talent. He's a lottery-type talent for the NBA. He just hasn't put it together consistently. So the question is, can he continue to do it here at the most important time?
All right, so Dave, so obviously you think Wisconsin certainly has a chance. They're one of the select few that we all said going in could knock off Kentucky. I'm assuming, though, like you say, in a 7 game, you're going to take Kentucky, and anything can happen in one game. I'm assuming, though, if you had to bet on it, and forgetting about the spread just to win, you'd bet on Kentucky. If we have Kentucky-Duke, who do you like there?
Yeah, that would be fascinating game. I think I still like Kentucky. I mean, I think Kentucky's the best team here.
Right.
But the best team doesn't always win it, as evidenced by the fact that UConn won it last year, which was the team that everyone kind of waved at dismissively as they came in. So, again, I think that's the beauty of this tournament. It's what makes it fun. But I do think Kentucky is the best team here, but that doesn't necessarily mean they'll win.
All right, I agree with you, but let's just do some assumptions here. Let's assume they do win. Where does that put them historically?
Well, man, I mean, they'd be 40-0. I mean, it's
Right.
hard to say it's hard to say it puts them anywhere but among a really elite list of great teams. I mean, are they the best team ever? You know, I don't know. I mean, I think those are almost foolish arguments to have. A lot of it tends to be in hindsight as to how good the guys are as pros, so then you can kind of look back 15 years later and say, man, look at the guys they had.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of always been the knock against the Indiana 76 team is,
Right.
you know, Scott May, who was the best player, had an injury-filled professional career and really never lived up to his potential. Kent Benson was a good, not great pro. So I think that's kind of why people look at that team and say, you know, well, they were the last ones going undefeated, but are they the best team ever? Who knows? You know, the UNLV team, obviously, they nearly did be up there. But, I mean, Kentucky, again, would be on a really short list. 40-0 is 40-0. I know it's in the SEC. It's not a great league. Look, assuming they play Wisconsin and Duke, these will be the two best teams they played all year. So if they get to 40-0, they're going to have to earn it.
Dave, thanks as always for the time. Dave Revsine, lead studio host on the Big Ten Network. Thanks.
Thank you, buddy. Appreciate it.
All right, good to be on with the Junkies. Thanks, guys.
All right, thank you, pal. All right, good stuff from Dave. Definitely was bullying us early on about
That's
our tweet
okay.
sheet.
We're big boys. We can handle it.
Which, I mean, I set it up because I said, you know, it was going to be groundbreaking.
Yes.
Right.
He doesn't know the history of the cheat sheet, which has spawned the tweet
No,
sheet.
maybe you can go to our Wikipedia page. You can catch up.
Sure.
He thought we were still doing the cheat sheet.
I didn't really know. I didn't really know we discontinued it. To be honest with you. I mean, it wasn't like we made a conscious decision. It just kind of disappeared.
No, I think we actually did make a conscious decision. We had like
we did?
Yeah.
I don't remember the discussion. I probably was in the bathroom.
I don't know, and I don't blame you.
It was like 3 years ago.
Right. When's the discussion about quitting the tweet sheet? I'm ready for that one.
After the first tweet sheet.
Oh.
Might be in like 20 minutes.
All right. Is that what we're doing next?
No.
We're waiting?
9:45.
Why are we waiting?
Let's get more tweets.
I
Hashtag
thought
tweet sheet.
We don't have enough. I feel like we should do it
You
next.
want to debut it next?
Well, I feel
We're
like there's been
bumping
a
it
lot.
up.
I feel like there's been a lot of buildup.
It's a bad appointment listening.
I agree. It's bad appointment. What do you think? I think we've been building it up. We almost need to get to it.
All right. Well, you
I
got to
don't-
get
I
your
don't wanna
last
blow
second.
it out in the
Get your last
segment.
second tweets
What
in.
if it's great? We might want to extend it.
Tweet me at GlassJoeJP. You can use the hashtag tweet sheet. The stupid idea to have tweets called Junks
Can
Mail
I just say this for
is
the record?
out.
All right. Yeah, we're not doing a junk mail. This is why I'm kind of against the segment. Anytime I see tweets on television,
Right.
it's the worst segment ever.
Right.
So I don't know why it would be any better on radio.
It probably won't.
Anytime they put like a blonde chick in front of a TV and they go through the tweets, that's when I know they're punting.
By the way, we do have our boy Schwartzy joining us next.
Oh, he is?
So
Oh, yeah,
he's
'cause
joining
he's
us next.
performing.
So we're going to stick to the appointment, EB.
Oh, okay.
The anticipation
And it's a shorter
continues.
segment.
Maybe Schwartzy can send us a tweet. He can get in the segment.
There you go. All
right.
Hashtag tweet sheet. You can tweet me at GlassJoeJP. But Schwartzy's going to be part of the big block party on Monday at Canal Park. We'll talk to him next as his band performs right here on The Fan.